Hi, I'm Bridget Piekarz with Penguin Random House, and I'm here to present 3 books to you today, 2 from my spring list and 1 from my summer list. At the outset, though, I do want to urge you to go visit the book room when today's presentations have finished to request ARCs of the titles you've heard about today. And I want to further encourage you that if you do read something you like, please let your rep know. You know how much we love to hear from you. So now on to the books. The first book I'm going to talk about is Joan Is Okay. And I would like to talk to you about Joan, but first I would like to talk to you about Robin, as in Robin Desser, the editorial director at Random House. She's only been in this position for a few years, but you've fallen under her spell in her previous tenure as senior editor at Knopf, where she published the likes of Patti Smith, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Jhumpa Lahiri, Cheryl Strayed, and Chemistry, the first novel by the writer I'm presenting now, Wei-Key Wang. So now let's talk about Joan. She is in her 30s. She is just under 5 feet tall and weighs just under 100 pounds. I mention these details because this is exactly the sort of information the watchful, precise Joan would notice about anyone she meets for the first time. What else do we know about her? She is the child of Chinese immigrants who fled back to the homeland as soon as their 2 adult children were successfully launched into the world. She's a specialist in intensive medicine at an Upper East Side Manhattan hospital where she turned down a private office because she didn't like its echo. She has a brother and a glamorous sister-in-law in Connecticut whom she dutifully loves but mainly avoids. She gets along fine with people, but she really has no close relationships, preferring instead to observe the interactions between her patients and the machines that keep them alive and heal them. Her favorite machine is the ECMO, an astonishing contraption that earns her admiration and respect due to its ability to completely bypass the heart and lungs of an endangered body completely. Joan likes to work and does not like time off, any time off, and is always filling in for colleagues until a company-mandated grieving period following the death of her father lands her home in her apartment, facing weeks that need to be filled and an intrusive new neighbor who insists on populating her bare space with furniture, books, a baffling collection of refrigerator magnets, and her first TV. The timing here, however, suddenly becomes ominous to us. The calendar pages are turning, and it's now January 2020. For Joan, the Chinese New Year means only a glittering family party to hide from. We, the readers, know suddenly in the pit of our stomachs exactly what is coming for New York and the rest of the world soon. It looms ever closer. It's February now, and the mandated vacation is blessedly coming to a close. In the meantime, Joan's ordered world of hidden immigrant culture, strained family ties, punishing work schedule have put previously unknown stresses on her very choreographed existence. But she copes, and not even the ability, once the supply chain begins to break down, to obtain her 2 favorite flavors of LaCroix canned drinking water can stop her. And for those of you curious, her favorite flavors are pamplemousse and tangerine. I'm kind of a lime and pamplemousse girl, but I can get with tangerine, I guess. Anyway, by March, she returns to work just in time for all hell to break loose. So, is Joan okay? I won't be spoiling anything by letting you know at the outset that, yes, Joan is not just okay, she is completely, utterly, touchingly, hilariously herself. We often sell you a book by telling you about a character that is so perfectly rendered we will never forget her. In this case, trust me, you will agree with me 100% exactly. So on to a debut by Tara Stringfellow, who's a globe-trotting poet and former attorney who's drawn on her own family history for the novel Memphis, a rich portrait of civil rights history, family violence, the power of art, and the biblical force of Black matriarchs. It is at once unsparing and violent, desolate and bursting with color. She's spinning a whole lot of plates in the air here, and not a one wobbles, much less hits the ground. This is the story of three specific women in one memorable family in its particulars. In its execution, though, it's really a story about anyone who has tried to make sense of who or what came before them, or who longed to go beyond the boundaries set for them by someone else or some other institution. It's above all the story of the perils and the promise of home. To give you a sense of the mastery of her shifting tones, I'm going to share with you a few early lines and a few closing ones. At the end of chapter 1, 10-year-old Joan tells us, "As my mother helped me undress, with a gentleness that only increased my fear, I understood then why the first sin on earth had been a murder amongst kin." Then, in the addendum to the book, in a detailed recipe for their grandmother's fried green tomatoes, comes dual notes as two sisters chime in with their following additions. Note from August. "I just use fish fry mix. McCormick's is the best. Ain't nobody got time to be making all this breading, getting the kitchen all dirty." Note from Miriam. "I agree, we got too many kids for all this." Stringfellow and her fictional creations are real forces of nature, and if this is her first novel, look out world. Finally, I'm giving an early shout out to a book that isn't even cataloged yet, but which will be on the Ballantine summer list. Neruda on the Park, also a debut, is by Clavis Natera, a writer who was born in the Dominican Republic, but lived in New York from the age of 10 on, and now boasts an MFA from NYU and numerous Penn grants, among other notable achievements. This book is another immigrant song, specifically about the generational divide that splits open a family that is facing the gentrification of their longtime neighborhood. Mother, father, and daughter all secretly plot wildly different responses to the announced demolition of a nearby tenement community. And this is the kind of propulsive story with social commentary that made such a hit and such book group catnip out of such a fun age. And it also really has literary chops to earn advance raves from the likes of Jenny Ophel and Kimberly King Parsons. So those are my three books. I hope you request them. Please remember to go to the book room, and I hope you enjoy them, and thanks for your time.